Hey everybody, it's Claire, like primping for you. I'm gonna shut my door real quick. Okay, so our Baker Creek seed catalog came in the mail, and oh, it's like the best time of year. I just love flipping through it. It's such a beautiful book. I actually bought a second book so that my mom could have it. But I mean, look, it's just gorgeous. It's worth every penny they charge. They don't charge a lot for it, but even if they did, it's just worth having. So, when we were planning our gardens, one of the things that was really important to us, in addition to doing organic gardening, was also really looking at heirloom plants. I don't want to grow something that I can get at the grocery store. And I've heard other people on YouTube say that as well. So I think a lot of us that are into heirloom seeds sort of have this feeling like if we're going to grow it, we want it to feel special. I also think that current food is bred for production and how long it can stay fresh on a truck. I mean, that's just the reality of how we're living these days. And, a lot of times the foods that have the best flavor don't necessarily have the longest shelf life. And so over time, flavors getting bred out in exchange for being able to be transported across the country. So I find that the heirloom plants that we grow really are just phenomenal, and it just makes growing and all the hard work and all the effort just so worth it. So I thought today that I would take this catalog and share with you some of the things that we grew last year and how they did, so that if you're thinking about planting your garden for next year, especially if you live in Zone 7B, we're here north of Atlanta. If you're somewhere regionally close to us, I think this could be really, really helpful for you, just at least to hear what our experiences were and whether or not we would grow it again. And I would love to hear in the comments from you guys. What did you grow? What worked? What didn't work? All that good stuff. So I'm going to start with the basils. I mean, come on. That's amazing, right? And we did a bunch of basils this year. In fact, we took our green stock and we filled it up with probably 15 different varieties of basil. And I have to say, the basil plants are so fragrant. They're just beautiful to look at. I didn't end up cooking with a lot of the basils like I had initially intended because honestly, some of the basils, the flavor profile wasn't something that we really liked, but we did like having the plants, and they're great for pollinators. And it was really fascinating. I did a taste off, a basil off with the kids a couple of times where we would just sample the different basil plants, and it's fascinating the difference in flavor in these basils. So that was kind of a fun thing to do. I don't know that we'll grow all these basils again this year, but they did very, very, very well in the green stock, and they did really, really well here in Zone 7B. So that was a fun thing to do. Now, look at this soybean, okay? It's called Tankuro. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but my daughter is a vegetarian. I constantly worry about her getting plant-based protein. And this edamame, this soybean, was so amazing. I mean, wow, the flavor was to die for. And I wish that I had grown 30,000 more of these, because the way the plant comes up is the plant comes up, then you get the soybean pods, they swell up, they're ready to pick, and then it's done. So this is definitely something we're going to grow again. I'm going to succession plant it this year so that we always have 3 or 4 plants coming up at a time, because to be able to go out there, pluck these, steam them or boil them in a little bit of water, throw some salt on them, and have a great, healthy vegetarian protein snack is like incredible. Highly, highly, highly recommend that soybean for you guys. Grew super well and very easy. Okay, I might be giving up on the beets. I've tried to grow beets in the last 3 years, every year, have not gotten one. We've grown some beet greens, but never a beet. And I don't know if it's just the soil, doesn't work for us and we don't have the right amendments or what the deal is, but I don't know. If I were to grow beets again, this is the kind that I would do. And I still have some seeds left because I just think they're so beautiful and so whimsical. It's like, Willy Wonka or Dr. Seussy kind of looking. So if you guys are in my zone and you've gotten some beets to come out of the ground, please share your tips with us. Borage. I grew borage this year for the first time, and we grew this one, the blue one, and it did phenomenal. I had never grown borage before. First of all, I think the blue color is really, really pretty. You know, there's not a ton of blue plants. It's completely edible. The flowers actually have a little bit of like nectar in them, so there's a sweet little hint of flavor, but it kind of tastes like a cucumber-y. But you can put them in salads, you can make them with teas. I know a lot of like natural supplements use oil. So it's a really great all-purpose plant. And of course, the bees, the pollinators loved it. And it just added a lot of beauty to the garden. So I'm definitely going to grow the borage again, without a doubt. Okay, cabbage. We've got on the ground this year. We're going to see how that goes. But we grew the Express and we grew the Glory of Ingwisen. I don't know. I'm not pronouncing that right, I'm sure. Probably just embarrassed myself there. But Red Express, we planted 36 last year, and none of them came. They came up as seedlings, but then they didn't do anything. And I think the problem is that I planted them in the ground, and we have the Georgia red clay soil. And I just think the dirt was too thick and too compacted for the roots to really do anything. This year, I started cabbage seedlings in the green stalk, and then I transported some into the raised beds, and I'm leaving some in the green stalk because we're just sort of doing an experiment on what is working the best. But the Glory of Incusin, sorry if I'm not pronouncing that correctly, we did get one head of those last year, and it was delicious. And I'm a fan of cabbage because cabbage is something that you can prep once, put a dressing on it, put it in your refrigerator, and you can eat off of it for a couple of days without it getting wilty the way lettuce does. And so it's really, really durable. And there's so many things you can do with cabbage, from cold salads to, sauteing it in butter and bringing out that sweetness. So I definitely think cabbage is something I'm not giving up on. I think it just doesn't need to be in the ground here. It needs to be in the raised bed. Carrots. We have done a lot of carrots, and I have to say I wasn't really excited by any of them until we grew this one around here. It's the purple dragon. And you guys, if you've watched one of the recent, the purple dragon carrot is this fuchsia exterior. Oh my word, it's amazing. And then look, when you cut it, this carrot was so fragrant and so delicious that I had literally told Don, he's the other Ormwood, I don't want to grow carrots anymore. Nobody in the family eats them but me. They take forever to come up. They're usually squiggly and weird. I I can only eat so many carrots, but this carrot was so amazing. So I really would encourage you to check out the purple dragon carrot and tell me what you think. I haven't grown this one yet, but this year we've already gotten our seeds for next year. This Kyoto red carrot, we're going to try this year. Sometimes it's just about finding the right variety and finding the thing that, really, really works for you. Okay. This cilantro, the one up top, this has been just a workhorse. This plant, we planted in the spring. We got so much production out of it. Then it bolted, went to seed, and now it has already reseeded itself and regrown a whole new plant, and it's just killing it out there in the garden. I'm sure we've done it to you in one of the garden tours, but it's amazing how nice it is to have fresh herbs. Even if you're cooking something basic, being able to put some fresh basil or fresh oregano or cilantro, something just, fresh and green really elevates a pretty simple meal. And I just continue to find that I want to grow more and more culinary herbs because they do so much and they're easy to preserve. So if you can, get them in before a frost kills everything off, you can really enjoy that all year long. Speaking also of productive, this Boston pickling cucumber, which is right down there. Y'all, this plant grew so many cucumbers for us, not this year, but last year, that we didn't hardly grow any cucumbers this summer because we're still eating pickles from 2019 or 2020. So this year we will do another round of pickles because we'll be ready for them by the summer. But that Boston pickling, it is popular and it has the reputation that it does for a reason. It was just prolific. I mean, we could not keep up with the amount of cucumbers. And in fact, the year that we grew all those cucumbers, we did not even think about growing dill. And then we harvested all these cucumbers and we went to the dill because we didn't grow any. And then the grocery store didn't have dill. It was weird. We had to go to a couple of different stores to find dill. So this year I did grow a lot of dill. In fact, this is the one that I grew. And I just want to say it's a gorgeous plant. This is what the flower heads look like. We grew ours, we used ours, we then let it go to seed. It's now planted a bunch of seeds in our bed. They're in the raised garden. I'm looking forward to having that come up this year and just having that, seed itself. But dill is also one of those really, really, really versatile herbs that you can add to a lot more than just making pickles. So I was really surprised by that. Okay, the ground cherries. I learned about this plant from the Roots and Refuge Farm channel, and I'll stick a link to their channel in case you're not familiar with them. But I had never heard of a ground cherry. And in watching some of the Roots and Refuge Farm videos, this was something that they introduced me to. We grew it last year. It's so delicious, and it's the weirdest flavor. It's like a grape meets a tomato meets something else. Pineapple, maybe? I'm not really sure. But it comes in a little husk. And when they're ripe, the husks turn brown and the little fruit is yellow and they're tiny. And truthfully, we would just snack on them while we were in the garden. We never really had enough to bring inside to do any kind of jams or cakes with because we were so busy eating them in the garden. But definitely would grow those. Definitely would grow those next year. Especially if you have little people who, you're trying to introduce a wide variety of foods and flavors to, that is a great, great, great plant. Okay. Lettuces. I have probably grown almost all the varieties of lettuces here. I've grown them in a couple of ways. If you guys have been watching some of our older videos, at one point I'd spread them like really thickly and was just using them as greens. It's a lot easier to do it that way, but we didn't like the flavor mix. There's something that didn't quite work for us. So then I took them and made more of an effort to be intentional and space them properly so we could let the specific lettuces come up. And we preferred that so much more. I think, I've got some kids with more sensitive palates. And so I just really have to be careful what I put out there. So right now we've got a bunch of the little Jim lettuce, which let me see where that is. Here it is. We've got a bunch of little Jim, which is like a little baby romaine. We've got a lot of that growing. And come spring, we'll grow some more varieties. But I really prefer, my family prefers to grow separate lettuces, and then we can mix them versus broadcasting them and just doing them, cutting them as cut and come again greens. Okay, the Kahari melon. This thing right here is from India. It is absolutely beautiful. I mean, it is a gorgeous fruit. It's a gorgeous plant. We had it on our trellis and it was vining. I don't think I'm going to grow it again. It did really well. I'm glad we had it, but the plant gave us about 4 melons. And for the amount of space that it takes up, I didn't really feel like it produced enough. What I would have to plant in order to produce enough would take up so much space. I'd rather use it for something else. But I will say this, it is a stunning, stunning melon. It's just absolutely beautiful. Tastes just kind of like a fancy cantaloupe, And it grew. Okay, moonflower. I had a fantasy that I was going to plant a bunch of these by my kids' trampoline. And my fantasy was that the vines would go up the sides of the trampoline and it would be amazing and fragrant. And they like to go out there at night and jump. They never germinated. Not a single one germinated. And I probably planted 25 around the perimeter of the trampoline, which does have full sun. So either, again, this goes back to my Georgia clay. It's just too compact. It's too heavy. And, we're not able to get anything to go. I also think these seeds are really, really large. And maybe I should have soaked them and let them get really damp before I planted them. I'm not sure. I'm going to try again. But these did nothing for us. And that was one of my bigger disappointments this year. Because in my mind, I can see this vision of this trampoline covered by these beautiful oversized blooms. Having said that, These nasturtiums were phenomenal. They're the Orchid Cream. They're so beautiful. And again, nasturtiums, every part of the plant is edible, the flower and the leaves. Kind of has, to me, a little peppery bite to it, maybe like in the horseradish family type of pepper. But so pretty. And these just grew and grew and grew. And I'll tell you, if you haven't grown them before, plant them on the edge of your raised beds because they will grow and they will spill over. And they're great for, pest reduction, a natural pest repellent. They absolutely are beautiful. The whole thing is edible. And it's just a nice point of interest. So we will definitely be growing the nasturtiums again, without a doubt. Let me see. Parsnips. We grew for now the third year, the hollow crown. It's right here. And here's the thing, of all the parsnips that I've put in the ground, I think I've eaten 2 of them because there is some critter in my backyard that loves parsnips. In fact, I just recently made a post a couple of weeks ago when I pulled up those carrots. I also pulled up parsnips, and the parsnips were completely eaten through except for the top of where the leaves connect. And my carrots were fine, and they're right next to each other. So I'm not sure what the critter is, but they really love parsnips. And I don't know that I will grow them again just because it's so hard, to get any of them. And they do have a little bit of a longer growing season, it feels like to me. A little bit like carrots. I always think they should be done faster than they are. And so then you're sort of taking up that space in your bed. So I don't know that we'll do parsnips this year. But I would be curious in knowing, what is this animal that loves parsnips but then doesn't touch the carrots or anything else around it? For that matter. Another plant that takes just a lot longer than you would think is the hot peppers. And 2 years ago, we got starts and we put starts in the ground and they did fabulous. And then last year we did peppers from seed. And I think we got 1 mini chocolate bell pepper and we got some hot Hungarian wax peppers. And that's it. The cayennes, the Tabascos, the jalapenos, which is on this page. Let me show you. This is kind of cool right here. It's a jalapeno, but they've taken the heat out, which is really great if you have kids or if you have somebody that doesn't like a lot of spice, but you want the crunch and the flavor of the jalapeno. I think we just didn't understand, it really needs a lot of time to get started and to get going. And we did not get our seeds started soon enough this year. So by the time we did get our transplants out, I just don't think it had enough time for heat to really develop anything. And so that was really disappointing because we had a lot of plans for hot sauces. We all like spicy sauces and hot sauces. And I think I have a 17-year-old who really has a palate for spicy food. And this would have been fun for him to just have access to all these different peppers. But none of them did it. So I am actually thinking, you guys tell me what you think about this. I'm actually thinking about we have a green stock and we have in our master bathroom heated floors. I'm thinking about putting the green stock in the bathroom and on that heated floor and then putting all my pepper seeds in it and seeing if we can't go ahead and get these seedlings to start now so that maybe by March, April, they're really, big enough to get into the garden and produce. Because I think that's why the starts worked the year before is that they were already this big when we put them in the ground. So lesson learned, we'll try again. That's just one of those lessons from the garden that you only know if you do it. We're growing Daikon radish right now, and we grew it last year. It's right here. This is the one we're growing. It's the Japanese Daikon radish. And I grew it last year as a crop cover because I just wanted to nourish the soil and, control weeds. And the plant was gorgeous. And when it went to flower and then seed, it was even more gorgeous. And you guys, these things, it got huge. And so I really, really just loved looking at it, especially in the wintertime when it's kind of gray and dreary. It was just so fabulous. But at the end of the season, or at some point in the season, I pulled a few up and ate them, and it was so good. And then I thought, I kind of was missing the boat here. It was great crop cover, but I could have been enjoying these, for food. So this year I'm growing them with the intention that we are going to actually eat some of them and use them as crop cover. But that was a really nice surprise last year. We learned a lot from that. Okay, sunflowers. I have grown multiples of these. No, that's a lie. I have attempted to grow multiple sunflower varieties from Baker Creek, and not one yet has come up, not a single one. And so, what I have learned about North Atlanta and just our climate and what the animals are that we have is the seeds don't even stay in the ground. The squirrels get them or the birds get them. Somebody's getting them. So this year, when we do sunflowers, I am going to start them indoors. I'm going to start them from seeds inside and then transplant them because I have planted so many packs of sunflowers. It's Don's favorite flower. He has this fantasy of just having, sunflowers everywhere. And we look into our garden from our kitchen window. So I do think it would be incredible to have that view. But, I'll plant the seeds and I'll go out there to water them and the seeds aren't even there. They're just gone. So the birds and the squirrels and the other critters really like the sunflower seeds around here. So we're going to start those indoors. Okay. Tomatoes, my word. I could talk about tomatoes all day long, every day. We have grown a lot of these. We've grown this green zebra, which is down here, right there. We grew the green giant. Both of those we grew last year. They were both very prolific, very delicious. I don't know that I'm going to grow them again just because how many fried green tomatoes can you eat? And that was really the only way that I knew how to do it. I know a couple of people gave me a chow chow or a relish idea, but it was fun to grow. I don't think that we'll take up that space because I really love the Cherokee Purple. And I know it has like a cult following. If you have grown Cherokee Purple, you probably know why I love it so much. It's like the perfect tomato with this level of smokiness. It just has such a depth of flavor. It's just incredible. It's incredible to cook with. It's incredible in tomato sandwich. I mean, I could just only grow Cherokee Purples and be very happy with it. But I will tell you, this Amish Paste right here, they produced so many tomatoes. And my daughter, who's a little bit more of a specific eater, a very, her palate is sensitive, she found that she really liked a tomato sauce made with these, also with a cherry tomato. And that was so exciting for me to know that she would be willing to eat a sauce made right out of the garden. So I really want to grow some more Amish paste this year so that I can make as much tomato sauce for her. Because like right now when I'm making tomato sauce, I'm having to make it from store-bought tomatoes because we're out of the tomatoes that we grew. And since she really enjoyed that, I want to take advantage of that and make sure we get as many of those in the ground as possible. Okay, turnips. This tokinashi, and I'm sorry if I am not right there, I'm not pronouncing that correctly. Man, this grew so great. Grew great in our raised beds. Couldn't have been easier. Tasted delicious. I could pluck them as I needed them. I could leave the rest in the ground. The greens were delicious. Turnips were exquisite. Easy, 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 easy. And, very cold hardy. So that's a nice thing to have come up, especially in the beginning of spring. The zinnias, this is the last thing in the catalog. I have grown these candy cane, which they look really pretty in this picture. I can tell you in my garden, and I grew them in the raised beds, the color didn't look like this for us. It looked just kind of muddy. So you could see where there was a stripe and the dots. And you could see that it was supposed to look like this, but they were very leggy. The blooms weren't, what I'm used to thinking of with the zinnia blooms. They didn't have the whimsical look in person that they do in the magazine for me. So I don't know if that's just our climate or how much rain we had or the soil. I am this year trying these queen lime zinnias. I love cut flowers. I think zinnias make such a great cut flower for the house, and they're so durable. They last a really long time. So, in my opinion, we can't grow enough zinnias. So that's kind of it. That's a quick and dirty for us and what we have grown out of the Baker Creek seed catalog. And I hope that if you're in our area and you're trying to think through what you might want to get for next year, you really consider going to Baker Creek. It's rareseeds.com. We do not have any sponsorships or any affiliation with them whatsoever. This is just truly a company that we love. They have a great product, and it really is fun to grow some things that you can't buy at the grocery store, especially when you got little people, or if you're just a beginner, you're just starting out. It gives you a lot of satisfaction. So I hope that was helpful. And please be sure to leave us a comment. Tell us if you agree with what I said, or you have different thoughts or different things in the catalog that you would recommend us growing. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much.